Top 10 favourite shows of the 21st century. Hello and welcome to this week's video. And this week I thought I'd do something a little bit different. A countdown, but not a musical countdown. A countdown that I actually do in person, so to speak. Now I want to talk about the TV of the 21st century because, well, I'm not the biggest fan of the 21st century in terms of pop culture, frankly. Pales behind the 20th, I'm afraid. Even just the last 3 decades of the 20th. But I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorites. And I wanted to make this a little bit different by making the rule that this can only include shows that actually started in the 21st century. Because otherwise, if we include shows that, you know, started in the 90s and carried on into the century, well, we all know what's going to win, dude. Buffy's going to be number one. So I just thought it would be more interesting to do a show about stuff that's completely exclusively 21st century. Now I would count I do count, like, not just reboots but revivals as separate productions to the originals, so they could come in here, though that's fairly unlikely as I didn't like any of them. So, but there you go. I just wanted to explain that before we started, before everybody goes, "Where's Buffy? Where's Friends?" This is not stuff that was still on in the early 2000s. This is stuff that had to start once we hit the millennium. Okay, and again, a fair warning for those not too familiar with my channel. This is my personal list. This is not an objective list, and it almost certainly will not include things that you like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, because I'm not a fan. Again, no need to get butthurt. You can nope out right now and make your own list. Alright, number 10. Misfits. I think I would put Misfits on this. Now, it's a measure of, shall we say, I'm not the biggest fan of the 21st century. That a lot of these shows, at least in the top half of this list, are going to went downhill after a while. And that's certainly true of Misfits. Misfits ran for 5 seasons. It was a British kind of tongue-in-cheek sci-fi show about a bunch of, well, misfits who get hit by lightning during a strange storm and get superpowers and generally misbehave with them. First 2 seasons were absolutely brilliant. I think season 2 is probably my overall favorite, just because of the Simon and Alicia story as well. It was very funny, raucous, very imaginative, very entertaining. I did feel it started to go downhill during the 3rd season, losing the best character, and in Nathan was a huge blow. They always fucking do this on these shows, don't they? The breakout star fucks off after 2 minutes, and then you're left with the rest of them. The best thing about the season 3 was the continuation and conclusion of the Simon and Alicia story, and I felt that after that, Misfits just kind of jumped the shark. Season 4 wasn't too bad, but felt increasingly divorced from the show I'd started watching, which again is something I hate because it feels like a con trick. And season 5 was absolute shit. I think I gave up after like an episode and a half. It was becoming increasingly crude without the charm and the humor of the initial seasons, and just kind of crude for the sake of it. And I just started to get, yeah, no, go away. But still, those first 3 seasons, they were pretty great. 9. House. I feel much the same way about this. I think House was brilliant to start with. A wonderful medical mystery procedural with a great cast, particularly a great lead in the legendary Hugh Laurie. I felt it went off the boil after the 3rd season. Once they started fucking around with the cast, it kind of lost me. And I thought the way that they treated Jennifer Morrison was absolutely appalling, to be honest with you. She was probably my favourite character after House. And after season 3, they fucked around with her, giving her fuck all to do for like 2 seasons. Finally started giving her something to do in the first half of season 6 again, and it turned out just to be to get rid of her. Okay, thanks for that. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know it's fashionable to bash Olivia Wilde these days. I didn't like her much at the time. I still want to know who she was blowing in order to steal Jennifer Morrison's job, basically. Sorry. No, sorry, not a fan. That pissed me off enormously. I have the first 3 seasons on DVD, and I've rewatched them many times, and it's still a great show. After season 3, they kind of lost me. I'm sorry. 8. Dexter. This is another great show that kind of went off the boil after a while. The serial killer show with the serial killer you kind of like and kind of wouldn't mind living next door to you because he's not going to kill you unless you're, evil murderer, sick fuck, what, etc. Many people say this show went off the boil in its second half. I agree, though I disagree that it went off the boil after season 4. I thought season 5 was great. I actually prefer season 5 to seasons 1 and 3. Controversial. I did wonder. I didn't kind of catch on as to what was going on there. I did hear that they changed showrunner after season 4. What I didn't realise was that they changed showrunner after season 5 as well. It's a different showrunner on season 5 to the first 4 seasons. I think it's Chip Johansson. I thought he did a great job, but unfortunately he then buggered off after 1 season and was replaced by Scott Buck. And the last 3 seasons went meow. Yeah, that was a bit weird. But still, this was a very entertaining show for the most part. 7. Pretty Little Liars. I know this will be a controversial one. How can you put that trash in there and not put Breaking Bad? Well, I'm sorry, I find this fun. I'm old-fashioned. I like things that are fun. And oddly, it's kind of standing up to reviewing for me because it's just fun. As I said in a TV spotlight I did earlier this year, I think, I saw the first season like on Channel 9. I found it engaging. Then they didn't. Then it got pinched by by Foxtel or some bugger or other, and I didn't get back into it until like 2016 when I found a DVD in the local library and it reminded me of it, and I rented it, and then I started getting the DVD so I could watch the rest of it because I got sucked back in. I like it. It's fun. It's over the top. It's silly. I find it very charming and very amusing. I suppose you could call it a guilty pleasure, but as I've said many times, you and I both know I don't have any concept of guilt. 6. Star Trek Enterprise. I really like Star Trek Enterprise. People are coming around to it. It was not liked for a long time. I have to be honest, I kind of suffered from the same thing back in the day. I think there was a bit of Star Trek fatigue going on, and we'd had so much of it since the late 80s. And Enterprise just kind of looked like more of the same, and a lot of people just couldn't be bothered. And I kind of went back to it in the late 2010s, not least because TV was so shit that there was barely anything worth watching anyway. So I kind of thought, you know what, I'll give that another go. And I ended up actually loving it. I really like Enterprise. It's probably my favourite along with DS9. Very underrated, and more and more people are kind of coming around to Enterprise, not least because, new Trek is such complete crap. So there you go. 5. Fringe. Fringe is a great show, great sci-fi show. I don't know. I heard some people say it's forgotten these days. Is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm so completely out of touch. I don't know what is and isn't in vogue anymore. But I find Fringe a very entertaining show. It's a great sci-fi show. Bit of the X-Files mixed with something else completely different. Great characters. Always liked Joshua Jackson in Dawson's Creek. Great leading man here. I really enjoyed Fringe. Again, this is another one that kind of goes off the boil. Season 5 feels like a completely different show entirely. It's like, what? What? And despite what... some people say that Season 5 was planned all along. I find it very difficult to believe because it completely upends the nature of the antagonists in it from what we've seen before. It feels like it's been grafted on because Season 4, an excellent season. Season 4 basically wrapped up everything, and it feels to me like they got a late 11th hour recommission for Season 5, and they're like, fuck, we've ended the story. What the hell are we going to do now? So they have to kind of pull something out of their ass for Season 5. That's just my opinion. Overall, however, first 4 seasons, great, superb sci-fi show. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's awesome. 4. Lost. This is probably another controversial and unpopular one these days. Oh, how can you choose that? It's very vogue in the in thing to bash Lost these days. I don't fall into that category of sheep, I'm afraid. Oh my god, I remember having an argument with some twat on a comment section a few months ago who could not get it through his fucking head that the ending was not what he thought it was. It's like, no, that's not what the ending was. And he's like, yes it is. I'm like, did you see it? Because I did. That's not what the ending meant. They literally spelt out what the fucking ending was for the stupid in the audience. No, I know. Someone on the internet told me. It's like, fuck me. Sorry. I love Lost. I think it's a great show. I do find the first couple of seasons, despite a handful of really terrific episodes, kind of difficult to rewatch simply because they're so much slower paced. From season 3, certainly from about mid-season 3 onwards, the pace kind of... Because they got themselves an end date, so they knew how to pace it. They didn't know how long the show was going to run for, so they're kind of like stretching everything out. They got themselves an end date of 6 seasons, and suddenly the pace picks up enormously. I love Lost. It does pretty much all make sense if you're actually paying attention and aren't stupid. And it's got some wonderful characters. One of my favourite actors in there, Michael Emerson, as one of my favourite TV villains of all time, the wonderfully, hilariously despicable Benjamin Linus. I love Lost. I'm sorry. I certainly find the last 4 seasons very rewatchable. 3. Person of Interest. Talking of Michael Emerson, he's in this one as well. That's good, isn't it? An actor gets in 2 of your favourite shows. This is one that didn't go off the boil. It's a 5-season run, and it's an excellent show from start to finish. It's science fiction, though this may not be immediately apparent because it starts out kind of as a crime procedural story of the week thing with a kind of high concept sci-fi MacGuffin, and then you kind of get to about the midway, but they start kind of building on the sci-fi stuff slowly but surely, ramping it up, and then you get to the midway point about midway through season 3 and the switch flips, and what starts out as these 2 guys trying to help ordinary people who are getting themselves into unpleasant situations suddenly becomes a race against time to save the world from a malevolent AI. Person of Interest is fucking awesome. Again, shows what a great actor Michael Emerson is. Totally different character from the thoroughly despicable Ben in Lost. Just wonderful entertainment, thoroughly compelling from beginning to end. 2. Wicked Science. This might seem a bit of a random choice. I'm sure many people who are not familiar with this channel probably don't even know what the hell it is. It's basically a mid-2000s Australian TV kids/teen sci-fi show. I love it. I admit I am thoroughly biased just because I am such a huge fan of the lead actress, Bridget Novell, who I fell in love with as Lana in Australian soap opera Neighbours, and I followed her over to this show. And happily, I really liked this show on its own merits. I mean, it doesn't hurt having one of my favourite actresses in it. but it's actually a good show. I actually rewatched season 1 again this year, and I actually liked it more than I did when I saw it again in 2020. Oddly, when I reviewed season 1, I kind of, I mean, I was right in that there is a bit of a dull patch late in the season, but it's actually not as long as I remembered it to be. It happens a bit later than I remembered, and it picks up again earlier than I remembered. So I still prefer season 2, which is one of my favourite seasons of anything. But I actually liked season 1 a bit more than I did the first time. It's a lot of fun. If you like stuff like the Sarah Jane Adventures, you probably like Wicked Science. I liked it more than the Sarah Jane Adventures, but there you go. I'm thoroughly biased, so maybe that's to do with it. And my number one favourite show of the 21st century that started in the 21st century, probably no surprise to those familiar with this channel, Elementary. I love Elementary. It's one of my absolute favourite shows of all time. I love Johnny Lee Miller's Holmes, absolute wonderful character and performance. This show, on paper, as I said in my TV spotlight on it, on paper this show sounds absolutely fucking dire. A modern day Holmes set in and made by the Americans with a race and gender swapped Watson. It sounds like absolutely everything fucking wrong with modern pop culture. The difference is it's done by actual smart people who know how to make good fucking TV. Elementary rocks. 7 seasons. Wonderful stuff from start to finish. I absolutely love it. And there you go. That's my top 10 list. Scream, shout, list your own favourites below. Bye for now.